At midnight, Evelyn hears a knock on the door. She hesitates, remembering the journal's warning, but curiosity gets the better of her. When she opens the door, no one is there, but a trail of wet footprints leads down the hallway. She follows them, her heart pounding, until they stop at the elevator. The elevator doors creak open to reveal a child's handprint smeared in blood on the mirror inside. The handprint is small, fresh, and dripping. Evelyn reaches out to touch it, but the doors slam shut, and the elevator begins to descend on its own. She frantically presses buttons, but it stops on the basement level. When the doors open, the hallway is pitch black, and a faint giggle echoes from the darkness. Evelyn runs back to room 375, only to find the journal open on the bed. The next entry in her handwriting reads, "You followed the footprints. You shouldn't have." She flips through the pages, finding more entries in her own hand, describing events that haven't occurred yet. Liam will die. The walls will bleed. You'll see her again. As she reads, the room's temperature drops further, and the wallpaper begins to peel away, revealing faces pressed against the walls, mouths open in silent screams. Evelyn slams the journal shut, and the faces vanish, but the room feels alive, watching her. The story begins with Evelyn Hart driving through a desolate mountain road, the sky heavy with storm clouds. The hotel looms in the distance, a crumbling Gothic structure with broken windows and ivy crawling up its walls. Evelyn's car radio crackles with static, and a faint voice whispers, "Turn back!" before cutting out. She ignores it, her determination to uncover the truth about her sister's disappearance outweighing her unease. The hotel lobby is dimly lit, with a flickering chandelier and a musty smell of decay. The clerk, a gaunt man with hollow eyes, greets her with a too-wide smile. When Evelyn requests room 375, his demeanor shifts. He stammers, "That room, it's not available." Evelyn insists, and he reluctantly hands her the key, his hand trembling. An elderly guest sitting nearby overhears and grabs Evelyn's arm, whispering urgently, "Don't go there. It's not a room. It's a tomb." Before Evelyn can respond, the woman is escorted away by the clerk, who mutters, "Pay her no mind. She's confused." Evelyn enters room 375, which feels unnaturally cold. The decor is outdated, with faded wallpaper, a dusty chandelier, and a faint metallic smell. She notices faded bloodstains on the carpet, partially hidden by a worn rug. The room's mirror is cracked, and the reflection seems distorted, as if someone is standing just out of view. As she unpacks, she finds a journal hidden under the bed. The first entry reads, "I didn't kill her. The room did." The handwriting is shaky, desperate. When she flips to the next page, she freezes. It's her own handwriting, describing events that haven't happened yet. "The footsteps will come at midnight. Don't open the door." The chapter opens with Evelyn waking up in room 375, disoriented and drenched in cold sweat. The room feels heavier, as if the walls are closing in. The journal lies open on the nightstand, its pages fluttering despite the absence of a breeze. Evelyn notices a new entry in her handwriting. "She's watching you. Don't let her in." As she gets ready for the day, she hears faint singing from the hallway, a child's voice humming a lullaby. The melody is hauntingly familiar, but Evelyn can't place it. Evelyn opens the door to investigate the singing. The hallway is empty, but the singing grows louder. She follows the sound to the end of the corridor, where she sees a young girl in a hospital gown, Clara, standing with her back turned, clutching a tattered doll. The girl stops singing and slowly turns to face Evelyn. Her face is pale, her eyes hollow, and her lips curve into a faint, unsettling smile. She whispers, "You shouldn't have come back," before vanishing into thin air. The doll drops to the floor, its head cracking open to reveal a small, rusted key inside. Evelyn returns to the room and examines the key, which fits a lock on the journal. Inside, she finds a hidden compartment containing a photo of herself as a child, standing in front of the hotel with her sister. The photo is dated years before her sister's disappearance, but Evelyn has no memory of ever being at the hotel. The journal's entries become more detailed, describing experiments conducted by Dr. Voss on patients who exhibited extreme guilt and trauma. One entry reads, "The room amplifies what already exists within them. It feeds on their pain, their regret, their fear." As Evelyn reads, the room begins to shift. The wallpaper peels away to reveal scratched names of past victims. including her sisters. The air grows colder, and she hears faint whispers. You left her. You let her die. She looks up to see a shadowy figure sitting in the armchair across from her. Its face is obscured, but its posture mirrors hers exactly. When she blinks, it's gone, but the chair creaks as if someone just stood up. Evelyn ventures to the hotel's library to research its history. She finds old newspaper clippings about Dr. Voss's asylum and a mass suicide in 1975. One article mentions a young girl named Clara Voss, who died under mysterious circumstances and was rumored to haunt the hotel. As she reads, the library lights flicker and the bookshelves seem to shift, trapping her in a narrow aisle. She hears footsteps approaching and sees Clara's reflection in a glass cabinet, staring at her with hollow eyes. Closing scene. The room's warning. Evelyn returns to room 375, shaken but determined to uncover the truth. As she unlocks the journal's hidden compartment, she finds a Polaroid of herself sleeping, taken from the perspective of someone standing over her bed. The timestamp shows it was taken last night, but Evelyn was alone in the room. The journal flips open to a new entry in her handwriting. It's too late to leave. The room has chosen you. The chapter begins with Liam Carter, a charismatic but skeptical photographer, checking into the hotel. He's in town to capture the haunted beauty of the decaying building for a photography project. Evelyn meets him in the lobby, and they strike up a conversation. Liam is dismissive of her warnings about room 375, joking, "Ghosts make for great photos. If I die, make sure my camera gets my good side." Evelyn reluctantly agrees to show him the room, hoping his skepticism might help her rationalize her own fears. Liam insists on spending the night in room 375 to prove it's harmless. Evelyn tries to dissuade him, but he brushes off her concerns, saying, "Worst case, I'll get a killer story out of it." Before entering the room, he sets up his camera on a tripod, pointing it at the bed. As Evelyn leaves, she hears him mutter, "Let's see what this room is really made of." The door closes behind her, and she feels a pang of guilt, as if she's abandoning him to his fate. Evelyn spends the night in her own room, unable to sleep. She hears faint noises from room 375, muffled laughter, footsteps, and the sound of a camera shutter clicking. At one point, she swears she hears Liam calling her name, but when she opens her door, the hallway is empty. The journal on her nightstand flips open to a new entry in her handwriting. He shouldn't have stayed. The room doesn't like skeptics. The next morning, Evelyn finds room 375's door ajar. Inside, the air is thick with the smell of decay. Liam's body is fused into the wall, his face frozen in a look of terror. His camera is embedded in his chest, the lens cracked and bloodied. Evelyn retrieves the camera and reviews the last photo. It shows her standing over Liam, holding a knife, her expression blank. The timestamp indicates the photo was taken 3 hours after she left the room. Evelyn is horrified by the photo and tries to rationalize it. She considers destroying the camera, but hesitates, fearing it might be the only evidence of what happened. She hears a faint giggle from the hallway and sees Clara's reflection in the cracked mirror, holding the same knife from the photo. The journal flips open again, revealing a new entry. "You didn't kill him. The room did, but it used your hands." Evelyn locks herself in her room, clutching the camera and journal. She hears a knock on the door and opens it to find a trail of wet footprints leading to room 375. The door creaks open on its own, revealing the room's interior, now pristine, as if untouched by Liam's death. A faint whisper echoes from within. "Your turn." The chapter begins with Evelyn standing at the threshold of room 375, the whispers from the walls growing louder and more insistent. The journal in her hand flips open to a new entry. The room is hungry. It's always been hungry. Evelyn steps inside, and the door slams shut behind her. The room feels alive, the walls pulsating faintly, as if breathing. The air is thick with the scent of rust and decay. She hears a faint, rhythmic dripping sound, but when she looks for the source, it stops. Evelyn hears a low, guttural laugh and turns to see Dr. Alistair Voss emerging from the shadows. His body is grotesquely fused with the walls, his spine elongating into the ceiling like roots. His eyes are replaced with broken mirrors, reflecting Evelyn's terrified face back at her. Voss explains that the room feeds on guilt and trauma, amplifying its victim's darkest impulses. "It doesn't just take," he says, "it gives back." As he speaks, the walls begin to shift, revealing faces of past victims, their mouths open in silent screams. Suddenly, Evelyn's sister appears, alive and unharmed. She pleads with Evelyn to leave with her, her voice trembling with fear. Evelyn hesitates, torn between relief and suspicion. When she reaches out to touch her sister, the woman's face melts into Clara's, her hollow eyes staring into Evelyn's soul. Clara screams, "You left me to die!" before vanishing into the walls. Voss laughs, revealing the truth. "I'm not the room's creator. Clara is." She was the first victim, but her trauma gave the room its sentience. It's her now. It's always been her. The room begins to shift violently, the walls closing in on Evelyn. The faces of past victims emerge fully, their bodies fused with the walls, reaching out to her. Evelyn hears their voices, a cacophony of pleas and accusations. "You did this. You let it happen." Voss's body begins to disintegrate, his form collapsing into a pile of ash. As he fades, he whispers, "It's your turn now. The room has chosen you." Evelyn collapses to the floor, overwhelmed by the room's horrors. The walls stop shifting, and the room falls silent. The journal flips open to a new entry. "You can end it, but it will cost you everything." A faint whisper echoes from the walls. "Stay. Become part of it. You'll never be alone again." Evelyn's guilt. The room's manipulation of Evelyn's memories and its connection to Clara force her to confront her deepest regrets and fears. The room's sentience. Voss's revelation and Clara's true role establish the room as a manifestation of collective trauma and guilt. Foreshadowing. The room's offer and the journal's entry hint at Evelyn's eventual choice and the cost of breaking the cycle. This chapter intensifies the psychological horror and mystery, weaving together Evelyn's personal trauma, the room's malevolent influence, and the growing sense of inevitability. Let me know if you'd like to refine any details. The chapter begins with Evelyn fleeing room 375, desperate to escape the hotel. She runs down the hallway, but the walls seem to stretch endlessly, the carpet pattern repeating like a broken record. The air grows colder, and the lights flicker, casting long, distorted shadows. She reaches the lobby, only to find it eerily empty. The front desk is abandoned, and the clock above it is stuck at 3:75 a.m. The journal in her hand flips open to a new entry. "You can't leave. The room won't let you." Evelyn tries to exit through the front door, but it leads her back into the hotel. She finds herself in a maze of identical hallways, each one leading back to room 375. The walls are lined with faded Polaroids of past victims, their eyes scratched out. She hears her sister's voice calling for help, faint and distant. The voice grows louder as she follows it, but the hallways twist and shift, disorienting her. Finally, she reaches a dead end with a large mirror at the end. In the reflection, she sees her own face, aged and decayed, her skin sagging and her eyes hollow. The reflection smiles at her, whispering, "You've been here all along." Evelyn collapses to the floor, clutching the journal. As she reads, she realizes the entries are updating in real time, describing her actions as she performs them. She's running. She thinks she can escape. She's lost. The hallways are endless. She sees herself. She doesn't understand. The final entry reads, "She's trapped. She'll never leave." Evelyn tries to retrace her steps, but the hallways lead her back to the mirror. This time, the reflection is different. It shows her as a child, standing with her sister in front of the hotel. The image shifts to show her sister's car accident, but this time, Evelyn sees herself in the driver's seat. The journal flips open to a new entry. "You've always been the one. The room chose you long ago." Evelyn hears a faint knock on the door to room 375. When she opens it, she finds Clara standing there, holding the tattered doll from earlier. Clara whispers, "It's time to end this, but you have to go back." The door slams shut, and Evelyn is left standing in the hallway, the journal clutched tightly in her hands. The walls begin to bleed, and the whispers grow louder. "Stay. Become part of it." Clara appears, her spectral form flickering like a dying flame. She holds out the tattered doll, its head cracked open to reveal the rusted key inside. "It's time to end this, she whispers. But you have to go back. Evelyn sets the journal on fire, hoping to destroy the room's hold over her. As the flames consume the pages, the room begins to collapse. The walls bleed profusely, and the floor cracks open, revealing a bottomless void beneath. Clara appears again, her voice urgent. Confess your guilt. Say it out loud, or you'll be trapped here forever. Evelyn hesitates, the weight of her guilt pressing down on her. Finally, she whispers, I'm sorry. I left her to die. It's my fault. As Evelyn's words echo through the room, the walls begin to disintegrate, and the faces of past victims fade into the void. Clara reaches out, her hand cold and ethereal. Take my hand, I'll guide you out. Evelyn grabs Clara's hand, and the room spits her out into the forest, the hotel collapsing behind her in a deafening roar. She collapses to the ground, gasping for air, as Clara whispers, You're not free yet. Evelyn wakes in a hospital bed, disoriented and weak. The room is sterile and quiet, the sunlight streaming through the window. A nurse enters, her face kind and reassuring. As the nurse checks Evelyn's vitals, her face shifts into Clara's for a split second, her hollow eyes staring into Evelyn's soul. Evelyn blinks, and the nurse's face returns to normal, but the room number on the door catches her eye, 375. Evelyn tries to rationalize what she saw, but the whispers return, faint and insistent. She looks out the window and sees the hotel standing intact in the distance, its windows dark and foreboding. The journal, now charred and brittle, lies on the bedside table. The final entry reads, It's not over. It's never over. Evelyn attempting to rebuild her life after her escape from the hotel. She's moved into a small apartment in the city, far from the mountains, and tries to convince herself that the horrors of room 375 are behind her. She throws herself into her work as a true crime writer, but her guilt and paranoia linger. Every night she struggles to sleep, haunted by whispers and faint laughter. The journal, now charred and brittle, sits on her desk, its pages blank but for one recurring phrase, It's not over. One night, Evelyn wakes to the sound of knocking on her apartment door. The clock by her bedside glitches, the numbers flickering to 3:75 a.m. She hesitates, her heart pounding, but the knocking grows louder and more insistent. When she opens the door, no one is there, but on the floor lies a key to room 375, its surface cold and tarnished. The hallway is empty, but she hears faint footsteps retreating into the darkness. Evelyn tries to ignore the key, locking it in a drawer and throwing away the journal. But the knocking returns every night at 3:75 a.m., and the whispers grow louder. She begins to see shadows moving in the corners of her apartment, and her reflection in the mirror sometimes smiles back at her. One night, she opens the door to find Clara standing there, her hollow eyes filled with pity. You can't escape it, Clara whispers. The room always finds a new host. The story shifts to a teenage girl checking into the hotel. She looks strikingly similar to Evelyn's sister, her demeanor nervous but determined. The clerk, his face gaunt and hollow-eyed, hands her the key to room 375 with a too-wide smile. As the girl walks down the hallway, the camera pans to reveal Evelyn's face in the mirror behind her expression blank and her eyes hollow. The final shot lingers on the mirror as Evelyn's reflection whispers, "Welcome home."